happened here. Alvin Bragg used federal funds to indict a former president for no crime, and then when we ask questions about it, when we want to investigate, he takes us to court.
I wonder if anyone we know will have any thoughts on that there was no crime. I know you had some thoughts on Twitter about Jim Jordan. That was Jim Jordan. You just said he seeks to obstruct DA Alvin Bragg's prosecution of defendant Donald Trump by taking his clown show to New York City. That is the absolute best way to put it, isn't it? I mean, just a complete ridiculous stunt.
And it's so transparent. I mean, he's trying to interfere with and obstruct and chill Alvin Bragg in his prosecution of Donald Trump. It really infuriates me that reportedly he's going to parade crime victims out in front of the public to try to beat up on Alvin Bragg, and using crime victims as props for political gain is despicable. And he happens to be violating the Constitution because, Steph, I invite everybody to read and reread the Constitution. Nowhere in there does it enumerate powers to the federal government to oversee or interfere with state court prosecutions. It's absurd, it's obscene, and it's an abuse of office and of power and of position.
And I loved Mayor Adams said maybe I can give him some tips on controlling crime, since, crime is 3 times as much in many of the Jim Jordan's Ohio cities as it is in New York. But anyway, let's talk about, you said New York DA Alvin Bragg sues Jim Jordan to force him to stop obstructing the prosecution of defendant Trump because #Justice Matters. So this was a good move and a ballsy move, right? And I'm glad he did it. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he has really 3 options. One option is to do nothing. I'm glad Alvin Bragg is doing something. The second option is to actually present evidence to the grand jury of what Jim Jordan is doing to obstruct the administration of the government, because that's a federal crime that's a state crime in New York if you interfere in governmental administration. And the law specifically says if you interfere by trying to impede or intimidate a governmental official, a prosecutor, in the performance of their official duties, you're violating New York law. Steph, if Jim Jordan went to Times Square and robbed somebody, he should be held accountable. He is trying to rob the people of New York of justice in this prosecution. He's violating New York state law. So Alvin Bragg could begin presenting evidence of that to the grand jury. I don't know that he will. Or his third option, which is the one he took, was to try to bring suit to get Jim Jordan to stop violating the Constitution.
Yeah, well, and also you make the point, Jim Jordan, who criminally defied a congressional subpoena, issues congressional subpoenas. And you said New York DA Bragg calls him out for obstructing the prosecution of Trump. You ask a question, will Jordan ever be held accountable for his crimes? That's what I wonder, too. How close are we or not to, these people ever seeing any justice that are in Congress?
Well, if Bragg chooses to try to hold Jordan accountable, that's one possibility. And the other is Jack Smith, because he really continues to go scorched earth after both the insurrection and the documents crimes. And if Jordan has criminal responsibility for the insurrection, I have some confidence Jack Smith will get after that.
Yeah. Here's one bad thing, because everybody. You tweeted, so the judge who drew the Bragg versus Jordan case, Judge Mary Kay, I can't pronounce that,
Visco Shield.
Okay. Is a Trump appointee who worked for 33 years in, quote, general commercial litigation in New York City, and whose one notable case appears to be dismissing a defamation suit by Karen McDougal against Tucker Carlson. We talk about this almost every week, Glenn, but it's one of the worst things that, I feel from the Trump era is just this complete politicization of justice, right? We have to always go, oh, great, it's a Trump judge. There goes the abortion pill. Oh, it's a Trump judge. There goes the mask mandate on flights. I mean, it is really, it's terrifying, isn't it, to just be that afraid of how politicized the justice system has become.
Yeah, he has so degraded the quality of the federal judiciary that it's going to take us generations to dig out and repair. Now, let me add, I don't know if Judge Visco Shield is going to be an honest broker of the law or not. When I did a little bit of digging, I find it curious that somebody with no government experience, no public service experience, but was in general commercial litigation in New York City for 33 years. Might there be some tentacles that intertwine with Donald Trump's business interests in New York City when that's your only kind of professional experience? I don't know how that qualifies you to be a judge, but, you know, and then when you look at really the only notable case you could find was when she threw out Karen McDougal's defamation suit against Tucker Carlson. And she did it because she said, well, nobody believes Tucker Carlson's lies and hyperbole. Well, yeah, I'll bet the Fox viewers believe his lies and hyperbole, and that acted to the detriment of Karen McDougal. So I don't really care for that ruling. This gives me reason to be concerned. Let's see how she presides over the Alvin Bragg lawsuit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's be hopeful. You also talked about, as defendant Trump's threats to judge and DA continue, it's time for the judge to order him to stop. I mean, once again, something no one else gets away with, right? What I mean, do you mean a gag order, or talk to us about that?
I do mean a gag order, and I don't want to shift topics, but, you know, you look at the E. Jean Carroll defamation suit that's about to go to trial later this month. Donald Trump again tried to get the judge to not impanel an anonymous jury, right? I want to know the identities of these jurors who are going to sit in judgment against me. And that judge, Judge Lewis Kaplan, said, no, look at the threats you're leveling against Judge Marchand in your criminal prosecution. Look at the threats you're leveling against District Attorney Alvin Bragg. I will not disclose the identity of these jurors, so you can do the same thing to them. So there's a judge, Steph, who's acknowledging in the strongest terms what Donald Trump is doing, and that judge is taking some remedies, right? Putting some safety measures in place to address it. However, nobody will order Donald Trump to shut up. And that's what a judge needs to do. And there is a basis to do it. You narrowly tailor the limitations on his speech. You say you can't threaten judges or their families. You can't threaten district attorneys or their families. You can't go after jurors. And if you do, I'll consider upping the ante and maybe even putting you in jail pending trial. Yeah. This is the way every other litigant in the country would be dealt with, but they continue to deal with Donald Trump wearing these kid gloves.
And he has incited actual violence before and continues to.